Ксенечка, я люблю тебе.
Hear my plea to the fallen, leave me to be with the broken one last time before I go. Hold the last burning ember, let us never surrender. May rise up to the glory and the fall. For the weak and the broken, for the lost and forsaken, let us never surrender. May we rise up to the call. For the weak and the broken, for the lost and forsaken, let us never
All right, Orc Hunters, check on into the stream here. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube, September 15th, 2022. I'm Andy Mercado from Mercado Media, and you guys are, again, watching live. Go ahead and check on in to the stream. Let me know where you're tuned in from, what city, what state, where in the world y'all are tuned in from for day 205 of the war in Ukraine. We've been covering this war since the beginning, since the invasion had began, and thank you all for your continued support. If y'all could hit the like on the video, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and make sure you're following us on Facebook, so that way you never miss a live stream, you get notifications, you stay plugged in, all of that good stuff. So our first story from Ukraine comes from Putin's hot dog boy. Hot Dog Boy gets the first news story of the day. Wagner Group financier Yevgeny Prigozhin is being established as the face of the Russian special military operation within Ukraine. So the Hot Dog Boy is now the face of the Russian special military operation. This is Putin's chef. if you will. That's if you ever hear Putin's chef, this is who this is. Prigozhin gave us a recruitment speech on September 14th announcing that Russian prisoners have been participating in the war since July 1st, when they were instrumental in seizing Voloskyria thermal power plant. A Russian mill blogger noted that Prigozhin is introducing a Stalinist method that allows the Kremlin to avoid ordering a general mobilization that could ignite social tensions in Russian society. Mill bloggers have been consistently praising Prigozhin's success in Ukraine, and some even said that he should replace the Russian defense minister Sergei Shoigu, who mill bloggers and Kremlin pundits blame for the Russian defeat around Kharkiv Oblast. This guy is like a real-life villain, right? He owns the Wagner private military contractors. We know that the Wagner private military contractors are comprised of criminals. They're no different than, like, if you want to do tit for tat, the U.S. when the U.S. used Blackwater, when we used that illegal ass shit in the Middle East, right? So that's similar. This is what, like, the Russians are using the Wagner group. The Prigozhin-Fomin meeting, if it occurred, could indicate that the Kremlin is attempting to address mill bloggers' months-long complaints that the Russian Defense Ministry did not hear their criticism, highlighting the ineffectiveness of Russian higher command. Prigozhin is a Putin's close confidant, his hot dog boy. He cooks Putin's hot dogs for him. And his developing relationship with mill bloggers say it may help retain mill blogger support for the Kremlin's war effort, while scapegoating Shoigu and the Russian Defense Ministry for defeat around Kharkiv Oblast. So again, Shoigu gets thrown under the bus. He was the defense minister. He led the Russian military in Syria. Putin's actual military commanders are getting under they're being tossed under, dude, just right under the bus. And Putin's going with his own private military contractors and some of these volunteer units. Study of War previously assessed that the Kremlin has changed its information approach to address the demands of the Russian mill bloggers and nationalists, suggesting that Putin seeks to win back the critical mill blogger community alienated by Russian failures. Those mill bloggers on Telegram, I followed a few of their channels just to keep up with what they're saying myself, so I don't need to keep doing it third hand. And they are openly criticizing the Kremlin. They're being real about what's happening on the ground. Yeah, they're for the ideology. They want Russia's success, but they're being very honest with the failures of the Russian military. And now Putin's throwing his own Ministry of Defense under the bus in hopes to get that mill blogger community and the social media space back in his favor. Russian forces likely targeted a Ukrainian hydrotechnical infrastructure in western Dnipropetrovsk Oblast on the 14th to interfere with Ukrainian operations across the Inhluetz River. And I got videos of that we'll get into during our map breakdown here shortly. Ukrainian sources reported that 8 Russian cruise missile attacks struck unspecified targets in Kryvyi Rih and Dnipropetrovsk Oblast and caused extensive flooding in areas of Kryvyi Rih. Russian sources identified the target location as Kraken Dam, which sits across the Inhluetz River on the western outskirts of Kryvyi Rih. Footage of the aftermath of the strike shows a 2.5 meter increase in the water level of the Inhluetz River, which runs south of Kryvyi Rih and is an important geographical feature for the ongoing Ukrainian counteroffensive along the Kherson-Mykolaiv border. So this affects what's going on in the south of Ukraine. So this is just some news that they're the Kraken Dam in Kryvyi Rih, and I'll show you guys exactly where that is on the map. And that was struck yesterday in response to the ongoing Ukrainian counteroffensives, especially in light of recent reports that Ukrainian troops are attempting to expand their bridgehead over the Inhluetz River near Davdiv Brid as part of the ongoing Kherson counteroffensive. So we're going to be getting into all of that. So now we're going to get into our full map breakdown. Map breakdown for the latest updates for the war in Ukraine. There are 2 major fronts within Ukraine at this time. You have the southern axis in Ukraine. Here's the southern axis of Ukraine right here. And then you have the eastern front, also known as the Donbass. And this new front line in Kharkiv that's almost in Lugansk. It's like there's like 30 kilometers left of the Kharkiv Oblast as part of this front line, but the new front line in the east is Vovchansk, Kupiansk, Izium, Liman line, and we're going to be examining that. So we got the Donbass here in the east, and then you have the southern axis in Ukraine. We're going to start with the east, with the Donbass. I'm going to highlight the main cities that we're going to be talking about, and then if there's any movements when I go around, I'll be adding lines to the map to show where they're going. So you got the Ukrainian-controlled city of Balakilia, Izium, Sloviansk, Seversk, Bakhmut, and Advidka. And also going to highlight the city of Vuhledar down here in the Donetsk Oblast, near Zaporizhia Oblast, where Ukrainian troops have been amassing here in the south. So these are the main Ukrainian cities here in this eastern front in which we have constant news and constant updates. Now I'm going to go and highlight the main Russian-controlled cities here in this region. You got Lyman still, Sverdonetsk and Lysychansk. You got Popasna, Horlivka, Donetsk, and I'm also going to highlight Lugansk so you know exactly where that is. This is where the Lugansk People's Republic come from, okay? So the red on the map, again, is Russian-controlled cities. Blue circles are Ukrainian-controlled cities. The red on the map is assessed Russian advance, so that's how far the Russians are into Ukraine. The yellow is new claimed Russian control over new territory based on Russian sources, and then the blue on the map, like the lightly colored blue, is the claimed Ukrainian counteroffensive, so that's how far. So that was once Russian-controlled territory. It is now Ukrainian-controlled territory. So we're going to start here with the Ukrainian counteroffensives in eastern Ukraine. The Ukrainian counteroffensives in eastern Kharkiv Oblast continues to degrade Russian forces and threaten Russian artillery and air defenses. The Ukrainian General Staff reported on September 14th that the intensity of the Russian artillery attacks on Kharkiv city has decreased significantly, suggesting that Ukraine's counteroffensive has degraded Russian forces' ability to conduct routine artillery strikes on the center of Kharkiv city, as Russian forces have been pushed eastward towards the Oskol River. So that's more so up here. We're going to zoom out. We're going to go up here now, include Kharkiv in the top. There we go. We can see what's going on here. So you got the Ukrainian-controlled city of Kharkiv. That's just been hammered since the beginning of the war, and less now due to the success of the Ukrainian counteroffensives. So I'm just going to highlight Balikla, Izium. Here's the direction of the Ukrainian counteroffensives. Moving eastward across the Oskol River. And it's important to point out that the new front line is this Oskol River here between the red and the blue. And the Ukrainians have advanced across the Oskol River in more than just a few locations on the map. The Ukrainian General Staff reported on the 14th that Russian convoys carrying S-300 and Buk systems moved through Ludatin in the Lugansk Oblast in the direction of the Russian border on September 11th and the 12th. Russian sources continue to discuss limited Ukrainian ground attacks in eastern Kharkiv, northern Donetsk, and western Lugansk oblasts. Several Russian bloggers claim that Russian and proxy forces are defending against Ukrainian attacks on Lyman in northern Donetsk oblast. So let's go back over to that. You got the Ukrainians advancing on the city of Lyman. So I'm going to put that on our big map. Okay, so that was just a highlight where we're talking about the city of Kharkiv, and now that the front line is moved towards the Oskol River, the city of Kharkiv has been shelled significantly less. So now we're going to go down and show y'all what Lyman looks like. So here's the Ukrainian-controlled city of Sloviansk. Ukrainian-controlled city of Sloviansk, and the Ukrainian counteroffensives towards the city of Lyman, towards Ozyrny. Need one more. Couple more maps. You can never have enough maps. Between the city of Ozyrny and Brusivka and Dobrova. These are the three major cities, and then also Staryi Caravan. Staryi Caravan and Brusivka are they're like satellite cities, right, attached to each other. Ryahadork is on the other side of the river. But these are the directions of the Ukrainian counteroffensive. The Russians are still holding off the Ukrainians from advancing into Lyman at this point, but as the pressure gets tight to the northwest of Lyman, the Russians are going to have a decision to make. They're either going to get cut off or encircled here, They're likely going to have to pull their troops back towards Donetsk, or back further deep into the Lugansk oblast, because the Ukrainian counteroffensives they've slowed down in a sense that they need to regroup and get fresh troops to the front, move their artillery from the rear of the Kharkiv oblast to this new front line, get fresh medical supplies, fresh ammunition. Like, that's the slowing down part, is just getting new fresh equipment and troops to the front lines. That's the only part that's slowing down. But this is still an active, like, the Ukrainians are crossing this Oskil River, they're moving further into Russian territory. This advancement from Sloviansk towards Liman has not stopped. Like, this has not slowed down at all. And then you also have the recent Ukrainian counteroffensive advances into the city of Svitoritsk, and that keeps pushing north towards Oleksandrivka. Right, so you got three-pronged approach from Sloviansk towards Ozerny, across the bridge from Ryhorok, trying to take the city of Liman as part of the Ukrainian counteroffensives. The Ukrainian General Staff noted that Russian troops attempted to attack Spirny, which is 12 kilometers south of Bilohorivka, likely in an attempt to push northwards and threaten Ukrainian forces in Bilohorivka. So that's over here in Severodvinsk. So you got the Ukrainian-controlled city of Severodvinsk. Here's the Ukrainian counteroffensives up north eastward towards Bilohorivka, as the Russians are trying to slow this advance down. The Russians were steady advancing towards Severodvinsk. The Ukrainians completely stopped, full stop on that advancement, and now the Ukrainians are launching counteroffensives away from Severodvinsk, specifically on the city of Bilohorivka. So this is what that looks like. You got the city of Hiranivka in Bilohorivka, and this is important because this is the Ukrainians trying to establish control over this area, over this territory, so they can advance towards the city of Lysychansk. If the Ukrainians are able to take the city of Lysychansk, it's a strategic city to take. It's up on a hill. It's up on an elevated plain. So that way, if the Ukrainians can take Lysychansk back, they'll have a significant advantage in advancing on the city of Severodonetsk and trying to take that city back, because again, this is all on an elevated plain, and we can see that through the Ukrainian counteroffensives northeast of the town of Severodvinsk. So again, Ukrainian General Staff noted that troops attempted to attack in Spirny. So let's figure out where Spirny is. It's 12 kilometers south of Bilohorivka. 12 kilometers south of Bilohorivka. So here's the town of Spirny. So what we're looking at here is the Russians are, let me just put a circle here. Here's Lysychansk. The circle just represents Lysychansk over here, and the Russians are trying to advance underneath Severodvinsk to try to slow down this Ukrainian counteroffensive advance to the northeast. So the Russians are responding in attacks. They haven't advanced, they haven't gained any ground, but this is what the Russians are attempting to do in this region. So on our big map, let's reflect this on our big map. And then the Russian response here from Lysychansk south of Severodvinsk. So this is what we're looking at here so far. Just the Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing towards Liman, and then you got the Ukrainian counteroffensives from Severodvinsk advancing northeast towards Bilohorivka, and then the Russians are responding to that counteroffensive by trying to advance to the southeast of Severodvinsk. And that is all to report on the Ukrainian counteroffensives. Again, it's a day-to-day change. Things aren't going to be lightning fast. Land isn't just going to start being taken like you saw in Kharkiv. That was a calculated move. About a couple months worth of planning went into that. Again, the smoke and mirror attack approach, where the Ukrainians completely announced their counteroffensives in the south, got the media attention, got everybody around the world looking at what was happening in the south. I mean, it was hard not to. They were still hitting targets. The Russians vacationing in Crimea, watching shit blow up. It became real. Like, oh damn, this counteroffensive's happening. And it wasn't even the real counteroffensive. The real counteroffensive was happening in the east. And that took lots of planning, took lots of forward thinking, lots of resources. And now any of those resources need to be replenished at this time. So it's not like it's slowing down or stopping. artillery systems need to move. Troops need to get to the front line, like fresh troops, fresh equipment, vehicles. We're seeing we're seeing MRAPs and Bushmasters, all types of vehicles from around the world in Ukraine now, up in as part of this counteroffensives in Kharkiv. So all of that need to get fuel. You got to make sure their vehicles are fueled, because that was like a blitz across the Kharkiv oblast. So we saw it in videos in the Foreign Legion, dude in a 50 cal launch, like they were going at cities, taking like physical groundwork, taking cities, and that takes resources to do so. So things are going to be replenished. So in response to that, let's go into what the Russians are doing in eastern Ukraine. So the Russian subordinate main effort in Donetsk Oblast is to capture the entirety of Donetsk Oblast, the claimed territory of Russia's proxies in Donbass. Russian troops continued ground attacks throughout Donetsk Oblast on September 14th. Ukrainian and Russian sources reported that Russian troops, specifically the Wagner Group detachments, conducted ground assaults south of Bakhmut. So I'm going to add that to the map. Launched ground assaults to the south of Bakhmut. Let's clear this out. Ukrainian-controlled city of Bakhmut still at this time. Here's where the Wagner Group is from, Popasna. And they're launching attacks south of Bakhmut. It looks like the Ukrainians were able to take back the city of Zaditsev. So this is just south of the city of Zaditsev, as the Ukrainians and the Russians are fighting over this. So I'm going to actually draw a blue line here too, because the Ukrainians are not giving this territory up lightly at all. They've been fighting over it all summer. Any of these gains that the Russians have had here in Bakhmut and Adviivka, south of Adviivka, have been literal city blocks in the 3 months during the summer. They like take a city block, the Ukrainians get back the city block, the Russians take 2 city blocks. That's the level of gains that we're talking here from the Russian military. So again, the Wagner Group detachments conducted ground assaults south of Bakhmut. Donetsk People's Republic Territorial Defense claimed that proxy troops took control of Mykolivka and Mykolaiivka Druha, which are both 12 kilometers southwest of Bakhmut along the T0513 highway. So here's Mykolivka and Mykolivka Druha, the 2 cities just to the south of Bakhmut along this T0513 highway, which is a crucial ground line of communication for the Ukrainians northward. They're trying to close ground, the Russians are here. So here's Mykolivka and Mykolivka Druha, just to the south, as the Ukrainians were able to take back the city of Zaditsev, which the Russians had advanced into. Looks like the Russians, that's too close to Bakhmut. The Ukrainian defenses here are too strong, so the Russians had to move a little bit further south to try to their advance in Mykolivka and Mykolivka Druha. So you got the Russian advance. Let me adjust this. Here's the Russian advance into Mykolivka and Mykolivka Druha, south of the city of Bakhmut. And then, of course, the Ukrainians defending. Here is the Ukrainians defending Bakhmut. The Ukrainian General Staff additionally stated that Russian forces conducted limited ground attacks northwest and southwest of Donetsk City. Russian forces continued routine artillery strikes around Bakhmut, Donetsk City, and in western Donetsk Oblast. So right now, in Bakhmut, just the Russians advancing onto the 2 cities of Mykolivka and Mykolivka Druha. I'm going to add that to the map. I got to add one more here. So all in all, up to Bakhmut, around this cauldron of cities and villages in the east, I'm going to circle where things are changing. So far, you got the Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing from Sloviansk towards the city, towards the city of Svitoritsk in the Sherwood Forest. Then you have the Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing towards Ozerny, towards Lyman, the Russian-controlled city of Lyman. You got the Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing northeastward towards the city of Bilohorivka to the northeast, trying to advance towards the city of Lysychansk, close that gap, because Lysychansk is such a significant city for the Ukrainians to take back. And then so far you got the Russians advancing south of Bakhmut towards Mykolivka and Mykolivka Druha. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 areas in which there's been some changes within the last 24 hours within Ukraine here in the east. And that's going to be it. That's going to be it for the eastern Ukraine in terms of the counteroffensives and the Russians' response to the Ukrainian counteroffensives. So now we're going to go to the counteroffensives in the southern axis of Ukraine. There's quite a bit to update, as this was the mainline update, the mainstream news counteroffensives here. Mykolaiv, you got Kryvyi Rih, which we have a video to go through from Russian strikes. These are the Ukrainian counteroffensive directions. Ukrainian-controlled city of Nikopol. Russian-controlled city of Kherson, Novokhovka, where that hydro plant is. And let's go over on our big map. So the first video we're going to look at here is coming from Kryvyi Rih. I got it ready to go. And is the Russians, one of the most recent Russian responses to the successful Ukrainian counteroffensive. So here's Kryvyi Rih on the map. We're going to be going into Kryvyi Rih. There's an overflowing river, and the bridge was destroyed by the Russian forces. And keep in mind, this is Zelensky's hometown. Okay, so here's a look at it. We're going into the city of Kryvyi Rih. You can see the bridge flowing through the river. Bridge flowing through the river. You got flooding going on in Kryvyi Rih. So Russia responds to Ukrainian counteroffensives by hitting critical civilian infrastructure, like key infrastructure that's important to Ukrainian civilians. So here's video from the site of the missile attack on Kryvyi Reservoir in Kryvyi Rih. Let me move this. Kind of hard to see where Kryvyi Rih is here. Here's another video. Let me adjust the map. So again, here's Kryvyi Rih. Circled it. A couple more videos coming out of there from the dam that was struck by Russian forces. There's the Ukrainians assessing the damage. So Kryvyi Rih, 6 missile strikes. Air defense could not bring down anything. The Russians hit on serious targets. Now a fire has formed. As usual, no one will report on losses in manpower. So the Russians did hit a target in Kryvyi Rih as a response to the counteroffensives. There's plenty of video posted on social media showing that, right? Let's continue. Ukrainian military sources maintain their operational silence on September 14th. So this is back now diving into the Ukrainian counteroffensives. That's the only report of a Russian strike in retaliation to these counteroffensives that have been taking place, the hitting of, or the destruction of the dam in Zelensky's hometown. So anyways, Ukrainian military sources maintain their operational silence on the 14th. Kherson Oblast Council head Alexander Samoilenko announced that Ukrainian forces have liberated the cities of Koslivka, which is approximately 23 kilometers northwest of Kherson City. But Ukrainian military officials have not confirmed the liberation of the settlement at this time. Study War has not seen any visual evidence supporting Samolenko's statement, and also Russian sources denied Ukrainian local reports of advances within the area. So there's only been one report lately of a liberated city. It was from the Kherson Oblast Security Council head. Ukrainian officials didn't recognize it as it happened, and of course the Russian sources are going to deny it. They'll deny everything, but there's been nothing even from the Ukrainian officials signifying that the city was taken yet. So we're waiting on that. The Ukrainian Southern Operational Command reported that Ukrainian strikes are continuously undermining Russian efforts to repair the Kakhovka bridge over the Dnipro River and have rendered the Darivka pontoon bridge over the Inhlowets River impassable. Let me see what we got for do they have a video of that one? I did not. Oh, there is a video. Is there any? Oh no, it's somebody talking. Of course, they won't release images of it. That's embarrassing. Nah, I thought that they had a video chat for a second of the pontoon bridge. I just imagine the Russians building the bridge and the Ukrainians just sitting there like this. Okay, all right, they're almost done building it now. Okay, all right, now bomb it, or hit it with artillery now. Hit it with artillery. So the Russians keep building pontoon bridges, and the Ukrainians continue to blow them up. I thought that was going to be a video of it, but it was just somebody talking, so we can skip over that. It's nothing interesting to see. I thought for sure we were going to get to see that. Ukrainian forces have reportedly continued to target Russian crossings near the Antonovka area and are firing at Russian convoys. Ukrainian forces maintain their interdiction campaign, reportedly targeting Russian manpower and equipment concentration points in Hola Prishtan, which is approximately 12 kilometers southwest of Kherson City, Dudacheny, Milov, which are both along the T-0403 highway. The Southern Operational Command also stated that Ukrainian forces inflicted damage on 4 ammunition depots in Kherson Rayon. The Ukrainian General Staff also noted that Russian forces continued to house troops in residential areas, specifically in the Chaplitka Rayon north of the Kherson Oblast Crimean border. Social media footage and statements by Russian appointed occupation officials are corroborating the ongoing Ukrainian interdiction campaign. Geolocated footage shows the aftermath of the Ukrainian strike on the School of Higher Sportsmanship, which reportedly served as an area of Russian troop concentration. Geolocated footage also showed a Ukrainian volunteer air reconnaissance unit striking a Russian storage building in Velika Oleksandrivka along the T-2207 highway. Local residents also reported hearing the sound of explosions and 6 missile strikes near Kherson City. Numerous geolocated videos shows that Russian forces are using ferries to transport military equipment across the Dnipro River, and Strimitsynov did not provide evidence supporting the claims. Ukrainian and Russian sources identified 3 main areas of kinetic activity northwest of Kherson City, around the Ukrainian bridgehead over the Inhlowets River, and south of the Kherson Dnipropetrovsk Oblast border near Vitskopilia. Russian milk bloggers claim that Ukrainian forces have adopted defensive measures near Posad Pokrovsky, which is about 30 kilometers northwest of Kherson City, and are conducting probing operations by firing at Russian defenses in Volodotny and Brevenik, which is just south of Posad Pokrovsky. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian forces repelled Russian assaults near Nivarivka, which is 29 kilometers northwest of Kherson City, and Bezmeny, which is near the Inhlowets River. The Ukrainian General Staff stated that Russian forces shelled Mala Sedamirivka and Novodomerevki, which are both settlements near the Inhlowets River near Balatoyivka, which indicates that Ukrainian troops have advanced further west within the Suky Stravok pocket. So that's here. Oops, wrong color. That is this pocket. We can circle Novi Ba. This is lots of territory to travel through. Probably got a cob or fob set up here between Novi Ba and this advance. But this is that pocket that we're referring to right here. Okay, Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing northeast of Kherson, southward. The Ukrainian General Staff stated that Russian forces shelled Mala, Stepanivka, and Novodorenki. I said that. A mill blogger also claimed that Ukrainian forces are attacking Zelenskyy, which is southwest of Vitskopilia, and Kostritka, which is southwest of Vitskopilia. A mill blogger claimed that Russian forces also struck Ukrainian forces in Podkonny and Potometkeny, which is southwest of Vitskopilia. The Russian Ministry of Defense did not comment on the situation in Kherson Oblast, only claiming that Russian troops struck Ukrainian positions along the Kherson-Mykolaiv front line. So no comment from the Russian Ministry of Defense, and also the Ukrainian sources are keeping a lid on their movements in Kherson. So despite the successes of the Ukrainian military in the east, the Ukrainians are being very, very tight-lipped. Again, operational security, things are happening on a day-to-day basis. They're still hitting key Russian targets. It's not like they've changed their strategy here. It's amazing because the Ukrainians haven't changed up what they're doing in the south, despite what's happening in the east. It's not like the Ukrainians were like, okay, here we go. Okay, now pull back. Okay, pull back while that's happening. No, they're still on a steady. They're still going. They're still hammering Russian targets, hammering Russian ammunition depots, key Russian logistics hubs. There still are bridges. They're hammering the pontoon bridges that the Russians are building to get across this Dnipro River. And again, if you don't know where the Dnipro is, here is the Dnipro. The two main river crossings here is going to be the old Antonivsky Bridge and the Kakhovka Dam. So those two bridges have been taken out. So the Russians are constructing pontoon bridges to be able to get resources and troops across the river, and the Ukrainians are destroying them just as fast as they're being built. And the Ukrainians are keeping the Russians cut off from the rest. So despite the successes in the east, the Ukrainian strategy here in the south hasn't changed. They're still hammering targets. They're still hitting targets. They're not taking large swaths of land. The biggest territory in which we're seeing Ukrainian liberations and advancement into Russian territory is going to be this pocket right here. This pocket right here to the northwest of Kherson. Excuse me, to the northeast of Kherson. In Kostromka, Stuhy, Stavok, Andriivka, Solechviny, as the Ukrainians are trying to advance further eastward and southward. This is that pocket that we're referring to. And then you got Nova Kakhovka, there's the Dnipro River, and Kherson, not very far. Let's get a distance. Let's get some distances here. Shout out to Dennis for all the hard work with these deep state maps. Measurement, so here from the Ukrainian counteroffensives to Kherson. 62 kilometers. We got 62 kilometers. Let me clear this. From this point to Kherson. 62. So let's go 60 to 65 kilometers between Kherson and the Ukrainian counteroffensives that are advancing here in this pocket of Kotromka, Stuhistravok, Lazov, all of these cities and villages, or small villages, satellite cities. This is where the Ukrainians are having success. So between 60 and 65 kilometers. And then let's look at what we're seeing here close to Nova Kakhovka with this Ukrainian counteroffensive advancement. About 38 kilometers. So let's go like between 35 and 45 kilometers here, give or take some. So the Ukrainians are not that far away from Kherson, from these key Russian positions, right? They're advancing further southward. It's very incremental here for the Ukrainian military, and then any official messages are not being announced right now due to operational security within Ukraine, right? So that's the southern counteroffensives that are taking place. Just looking at this pocket here of the Ukrainians advancing southward, and then of course the Ukrainians are hammering Russian logistical targets, ammunition depots, key Russian targets. They're being very smart here. They're not overplaying their hand. You're not seeing large swaths of land being taken like you are in the east, because they took everyone by surprise with that. All right, but we're going to keep updated on what's happening in the south, and that effort continues. So here's some mobilization and force generation efforts. So here, this is what the Russian military is doing to pay their military, how they're being formed, and what the names of some of these battalions of the Russians going into Ukraine are called. Russian military authorities continue to rely heavily on ostensibly Chechen units to generate combat power for operations in Ukraine. The Ukrainian main intelligence director reported on September 14th that Russian leadership plans to redeploy 4 Chechen battalions to Ukraine, but these battalions are significantly understrengthed and comprised of mainly non-Chechen mercenaries from economically depressed regions of Russia. Social media footage circulated on pro-Russian channels showed a detachment of Chechen service members in an unspecified area of Ukraine. Let me see if I can pull that up really quick. We watched one of them yesterday. Here it is. So this is in an unspecified area, the last known reported location of the Chechens, or where the Chechen military is. Let me circle it. It's in red. These are the pro-Russian Chechens, so we're going to be going over here. Just as to the northeast of Svirsk, okay? This is where the Ukrainian counteroffensives are advancing northeastward. So we're going here. The Chechens are amassing their troops in non-combat vehicles. You got one CAM AZ vehicle, but a lot of them are like pickup trucks and like like you'll see. Here we go. There they are. Got some technicals out there. I think there's another. There was another one too. There was a clearer video that showed the Chechen forces. Here's another one. More Chechen Kryvyi footage, this time from Zaporizhia. So these are the Chechen forces advancing. So that's the Chechens, the pro-Russian Chechens that are fighting in Ukraine, looking to expand their numbers. And you got Ramzan Kadyrov on his Telegram channel, like just speaking freely. That's why, excuse me, we're seeing more and more reports that Vladimir Putin's looking to appease the mill bloggers more so than his own Ministry of Defense and like his own government. I'm feeling a coup coming along. I'm feeling a coup coming along in the Kremlin. I don't know how much longer like people like Shoigu and some of these other Russian other top commanders in Russia are going to keep putting up with this and keep being okayed with being thrown under the bus for social media people. Funding volunteer battalions is likely placing financial strain on Russian cities and oblasts. An opposition member of the St. Petersburg Legislative Assembly, Boris Yevchensky, filed a motion on September 14th asking the city's governor to explain which part of the city's budget is providing funding for the city's volunteer units. The city government rejected his motion, likely suggesting either that the St. Petersburg government does not have sufficient funding for the battalion, that funding for the battalion is coming from the Kremlin, or that the city is diverting funding from other programs in a way that would be embarrassing to admit publicly. The model of having localities pay for parts of the volunteer program was likely a Kremlin attempt to obfuscate and disperse the cost of the program. Russian military leadership is likely attempting to force Lugansk People's Republics, this is the LNR forces. So this is what the LNR is going through. Circle where Lugansk is on our map. So anyways, the Russian military leadership is likely attempting to force Lugansk People's Republic proxy forces evacuated from Kharkiv Oblast to relocate to front lines in Donetsk, rather than reinforcing the new front lines in Lugansk, their home province. Odessa military spokesperson Serhiy Brachuk reshared a Telegram post alleging that women in Lugansk attempted to protest the LNR force's immediate redeployment and shared a video of many uniformed personnel and civilians on the streets in an unspecified location. So I'm going to pull this up. So you got the LNR fighters being pulled away from the front lines in their retreat to go reinforce the lines in Donetsk. And that, again, that's the LNR. The LNR and the DNR do not want to go and fight for each other's oblast. Here we got that here. I do have the video. So we're in Lugansk. This is in the LNR. This is a Russian, these are Russians. Here it is on Telegram. Protesting the immediate redeployment of Lugansk People's Republic militia into the back to the front lines, but they're fighting in Donetsk. It's just that you're not missing anything. Looks like a mess. Looks like they have no control over what's going on out there. Well, that looks like a shit show out there in Donetsk. Or, excuse me, Lugansk. So anyways, again, you got the LNR and the DNR, which are the two separatist militias that Vladimir Putin propagandized as part to start this entire invasion. And he's been propagandizing those two. Those are the two ethnic Russian militias that Vladimir Putin's sending all non-ethnic Russians to go fight their own ethnic war, whatever. And these two militias aren't, like, they've made it abundantly clear that they're only fighting for their own oblast. Like, they're fighting for Lugansk, or they're fighting, or the DNR, the DPR, whatever, the Donetsk People's Republic, they're only fighting for Donetsk. So the fact that they're being sent to Donetsk when they've already made it abundantly clear, hey, we're only fighting for Lugansk, it's gonna get interesting. Things are gonna get interesting here. They've already made it clear they do not want to go and fight for anything else. They don't want to be sent anywhere else. We'll see how their useful idiocy expires, or how the Kremlin expires them. We'll see how that turns out for the Lugansk People's Republic. Russian military leadership is, okay, so that forcing proxy forces to fight outside their claimed oblasts will likely exacerbate morale issues and possible insubordination among proxy forces, particularly if Ukrainian forces advance further into Lugansk. Like, their whole purpose, or like in their mind, their whole purpose was to defend their oblast, to make the Lugansk Oblast great again, energy type shit, Karen energy over there. And they're not even being able now at this point where they want to likely fight for their oblast, because the Ukrainian counteroffensives are on their way. They can't even fight for their own oblast now. They're going to go fight in Donetsk. They're not, and it's not even their own oblast. It's getting messy in Russia, or in Ukraine, in these Russian occupied cities. It's getting messy. More on that activity in Russian occupied cities in Ukraine. Russian occupation authorities shut off mobile internet in occupied Lugansk Oblast on the 14th, likely to preserve Russian operational security and better the control of information environment as Russian forces, occupation officials, and collaborators flee newly liberated Kharkiv Oblast for Russian and Russian-controlled territory. So you have a whole bunch of a whole bunch of Russians or a whole bunch of ethnic Russians or whoever with the civilians that they got fleeing from this counteroffensive, right? So here's the directions that they're fleeing from into the Lugansk Oblast, and they have a whole bunch of information. They've seen the Ukrainians, they've seen the L's that the Russian military has been taking. They're seeing what's going on out there, and they can't have that. The Russian government, the proxy governments and the Kremlin can't have the truth being put out there like this. So they cut off the internet to immediately prevent from anybody that has been retreating from this Kharkiv Oblast into the currently safe zone for the Russian occupied forces. So they can't post anything. They can't go on Telegram, which is a popular social media platform for Eastern Europe. So they can't post anything on their social media or share like what is actually happening. So Russia's trying to keep that ideological message going more so than what's actually happening on the ground. The Ukrainian head of the Lugansk Oblast, Serhiy Haidai, reported on the 14th that occupation authorities ostensibly shut down the internet to ensure defense and security capabilities, but implied that occupation authorities intended the shutdown, at least in part, to hide large-scale evacuations and looting. They don't have control over these cities. It's getting worse. The Ukrainian military is getting close. The cities that Russia has control over are a mess. Like Mariupol's waiting for the Ukrainian military to just show up and be like, okay, it's back to ours now. They have like a loose grip over Mariupol, very loose grip over these cities in the south. The only cities that they have a foothold are, ironically, are like the cities in the east still. Same cities that they've had a foothold over for the last 10 years now. The cities that they've recently taken since the invasion, they got it on a tight rope. They're walking a very tight rope. Things are not good for the Russian occupation authorities within these Ukrainian cities that the Russians have control over. So key takeaways from everything that I just went through in our map breakdown. Wagner Group financer Yevgeny Prigozhin, who is Putin's chef, the hot dog boy, is being established as the face of Russian special military operation in Ukraine. So it was Shoigu. You know, that was actually a moment in time where a lot of I was like, damn, they're actually bringing in Shoigu. Like, he led the Russians in Syria. Like, he knows what he's kind of doing. No, he got ousted pretty quickly, and Hot Dog Boy is now in charge. Russian forces likely targeted Ukrainian hydrotechnical infrastructure in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast in order to interfere with Ukraine's ability to operate across the Inhluetz River. The Ukrainian counteroffensive in eastern Kharkiv Oblast continues to degrade Russian forces and threaten Russian artillery and air defenses. Russian and Ukrainian sources reported Ukrainian ground attacks in northern Kherson Oblast, western Kherson Oblast, and northwest of Kherson City, but did not report any major gains. Russian forces continued ground attacks around Bakhmut and northwest and southwest of Donetsk City. Funding volunteer battalions is likely placing financial strain on Russian cities and oblasts. Russian occupation authorities shut off mobile internet in occupied Lugansk Oblast on the 14th, likely to preserve Russian operational security and better control of the information environment as Russian forces, occupation officials, and collaborators flee newly liberated Kharkiv Oblast for Russian and Russian-controlled territories. And that is your map update. For anything you guys would like to see added to the map updates, please leave a comment below in the video. Hit that like button if y'all could for me. Please follow on Facebook. Subscribe to us here on YouTube for more map breakdowns and supporting us at Mercado Media. All right, y'all, any questions y'all have? That is it for the map breakdown. We're going to be getting into the full video clip section, going through anything that I've found throughout the day that's relevant and accurate to the war in Ukraine as of this time. So we're going to be going into news stories, combat footage that's come out. There's the Ukrainian Special Forces have released combat footage that is new that we're going to be watching. If y'all could please leave a comment, let me know where you're tuned in from, what city, what state, where in the world y'all are watching from while we get into it here. The first video is going to be Russian missiles hit the central Ukraine dam, flooding parts of Kryvyi Rih. So I'm going to keep the map up, so when we do get locations, I can quickly just show y'all where these videos are, so it's not confusing. So we're going back to the Ukrainian controlled city of Kryvyi Rih. and just more on that dam that the Russians had blown up. More on that. This is from YouTube. Credit to Global News for this report.
У нас є весла. Я за головами ППУ, подивитися на
Yeah,
Ночью проводился большой перечень мероприятий необходимых, значит, начиная от 2 подрывов дамбы в районе Черногорки для того, чтобы увеличить пропускную способность, заканчивая там большими инженерными работами. Значит, могу сказать, что сейчас еще идет ликвидация аварии, но поток воды значительно уменьшился, и уровень, там где есть подтопление, уже начал спадать.
Каналізація теж не працює. Вже унітази не змиваються, тому що ззаді дома люки, я вас можу завести, ви можете подивитися. Все в воді. І жодного МЧСника з вчорашнього вечора тут не було. І до теперішнього часу. Все, поплили далі.
Мне надо выгулять собачку. Я каждое утро выгуливаю собачку. А как? А у Саши лодка. Мы сели на лодку. Она сидит, смотрит, рассматривает. У меня собачка такая хорошая, она, ну вообще как дитё. Не это. Довез, вышли, высадил нас. А потом вернулись, он забрал нас. И это.
Дальше смотри там.
All right, so that's the flooding that is taking place in the Ukrainian city of Kryvyi Rih. All right. Here is got a few hours of sleep in advance. How Ukrainians liberated at Izium. This is credit to Homrutsky. This was premiered 18 hours ago. I'm hoping that this is good to go for stream. I'm not hopefully if it's copyrighted, I'll get a notification, but I'm hoping we're good to go to see this. About a 22-minute video, 22-minute long video, real good content here. Full credit again to Homrutsky about the Ukrainians' liberation in the city of Izium.
Сейчас. Ой, Леша, сейчас мы. Еще уже у нас
Еще третьего, да, третьего. Можно
третьего же еще у нас. Не туда стало, смотри.
Иди сюда, давай.
Сюда, что ты, на куда, куда, что ты?
Oh yeah, smoking on them orcs. Sparkling up 420 friendly newscast. This is gonna be a good report here.
У нас. Не туда стало, смотри.
Иди сюда, давай.
Сюда, что ты, на куда, куда, что ты?
There's Izium.
Громадське в Ізюмі місто було окуповане росіянами півроку. Його захопили ще в кінці березня. Тут весь березень були бої, і 10 вересня, 3 дні тому, сьогодні 13 вересня, і ми в Ізюмі, воно було звільнене. Громадське покаже вам, як зараз виглядає місто, про яке говорять, що воно на 80% було зруйноване внаслідок боїв, і там загинуло приблизно 1000 мирних мешканців.
Открывай. Давай. Все буде Україна. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Ми тут біля Ізюму, біля стели, і насправді це дорога з сторони Балаклії. І тут ви можете побачити насправді безліч покинутої російської техніки росіянами. Ось навіть хтось, як бачите, черевики. Так втікав, що забув, може босий, може ще щось мав. Але вже тут насправді 25-та десантна бригада, яка звільняла також Ізюм, вже нанесла свої. От хтось Володька, 25-та ДШБ. От дивіться, скільки насправді боєприпасів тут купа. Отам, це ще одна БМП згорівша, і ось там далі ви можете ще побачити. На всіх них нанесені зетки, але вже і наші плюси.
От калібр, блядь.
Це що, це з-під чого?
От калібри. 125-й, ви бачите?
Не, так хорошие под вину будут ящики.
Да. Под вино?
Под красное, да. Ну, выпилять и...
Ну, номеры, даже фамилии.
125 мм.
А вот Москва написано, видишь? Подождите, место поставки. Город Москва, Костромская, это сам. Арсенал.
это
So
вообще
you can see where those missiles and that ammunition was delivered to and where they were brought from.
пользование решено. Ну да.
Completely new and unused munitions. The Russians literally just left their positions, very similar to like what they did when the Ukrainians won the Battle of Kyiv.
Это новое вообще будет. Это нам то, что надо.
Багажник
Тоже за.
Плов просто шикарний. Ми всі в шоці, як це так швидко сталося, і взагалі ми дивились на це і просто не вірили своїм очам. Як це так швидко сталося?
Потужний натиск української армії зробив свою справу.
Коли ви сюди зайшли? Яке це було число?
Там пару днів назад десь, я не знаю більше, не пам'ятаю, якщо чесно. Ми постійно рухались вперед. Да?
Але це все-таки було з боями, чи вони вже втікали?
Десь щось. Основна маса відійшли, мабуть, за день, за два, да.
Але тут ще якісь лишалися.
Справа в тому, що наступ вже розпочався ж раніше, і вони вже знали, що війська на підході, тому і відходили. Але все одно багато залишеної техніки, яку захопили, багато різних там трофеїв і так далі. Багато полонених, не всі втекли.
Да, ви встигли. А як вас місцеві зустрічали?
Та ви що?
Вообще хорошо.
Обіймали,
Ну,
раділи?
и было и такое. Ну, времени не было обниматься, потому что мы ехали.
Ви йдете вперед зараз, чи ви стоїте на місці поки що?
На даний момент ми тут чекаємо подальших якихось вказівок, що там буде, я не знаю. Розкажуть, як будемо робити, вперед. А там вже вперед, там вже всі пішли, там вже куди там йти. Вже вон, новини читаємо, Вовчанськ взяли, все, кордон, що, куди далі.
На Луганщині?
На Луган? Ні, ну це да, це само собою. Це само собою.
Що у вас таке тут? Що ви записуєте?
На ту гуманітарку, що була.
Російська тушонка.
По 25 гривень.
А, все-таки за гривні було, не за рублі.
Нет, за гривні, девочки. Я не рассчитывала з гривнями.
Російські солдати. А де вони їх взяли? Капець.
Настоящі границі.
Stole it.
До тої границі, яка була
Probably stole it.
колись. І буде зараз.
Повернути все до того.
Хліб є у вас?
Так.
Скільки
25 батон білий.
Так а покажіть, що з російських продуктів є.
Поверніть ззаді. Вот это был их холодильник.
А коли з'явився оцей напис?
Ми її не знімали ніколи, вони питалися її зірвати, не вийшло. Ми тримались.
Як ви пережили ці півроку? Страшно було вам? Дівчата як пережили?
Страшно, дуже страшно.
Чого боялись?
Боялись, коли діти сиділи в хаті, а зверху летіло. Боялись, коли стекла вилітали. Боялись, коли виходиш з підвалу, а в тебе хата горить. Боялись, коли зайшли до сусідів, а вони розірвані. Насмерть розірвані. Сусіди, яких я знала.
Це в березні було, коли...
Це було в березні. 6 березня, 7 березня, 8 березня.
Коли були бої
3 березня в мене хата згоріла.
І де ви жили весь цей час?
Ну, дочки. 9 чоловік в одній хаті, 40 квадратів. Зараз і живемо там.
Але ви вирішили не виїжджати?
Ні, звісно.
А чого ви так не переживали за життя і здоров'я?
Ми тут живемо, це наше місто, і ми його не покинемо ніколи. А ще залишилися прапори українські, які пережили окупацію. Ми їх ховали.
They were hiding Ukrainian flags too amongst the.
Круто.
Да.
So again, this is the civilians at Izium. Let's pull up the map real quick in case you don't know, if you just started tuning in or you don't know exactly where this is taking place. So this is one of the biggest cities over here as part of the counteroffensive. Let's zoom in real fast so you can see it. Ukrainian controlled city of Izium right here. That's where this report is coming from. If you guys could hit that like button, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on Facebook. Let's continue.
А це цей прапор. Їх було,
There it is.
2 десятка, мабуть, було.
Ви
Вчора роздали хлопцям.
Ми вчора роздали хлопцям.
Як вам так швидко вдалося? Ви взагалі сподівалися, що ви так швидко дійдете до Ізюма?
Вони дуже старались, вони молодці.
Так, це було так. Трохи складно зрозуміти про це все. Не дарма ж це все підготовувалося дуже-дуже довго.
Тобто ви не знали до кінця, куди ви йдете? Ви просто йшли вперед, йшли?
Так, був наказ, ми йшли. Все.
І зараз ви знову чекаєте наказ?
Так, ми ж військові, ми завжди чекаємо на наказ.
Тобто ви зараз ще не знаєте, ви стоїте чи йдете?
Ні, ну зараз ми проводимо разом з Національною поліцією України зачистку всіх цих колаборантів та виявляємо тих, хто не встиг втікти туди. Ну, а там далі, не знаю.
Кофі, чай.
Ні, ми пішли.
Ні, ми угощаємо.
Але у нас дуже мало часу і дуже
А
багато.
це 3 хвилини, а ми угощаємо всіх. А ще у нас є пиріжки, будете?
Отакі пиріжки.
Offering coffee and dessert.
Это мой его день рождения 10 сентября. Взяли за 2.
А у вас стояло завдання за 5?
Ну, стояло 5, а мы прошли за 2. Честно сказать, я даже не знаю. Просто вот 2 часа в сутки сна и вперед, да?
А взагалі ви знали куди? Ну тобто, що ви в Ізюм йдете? Чи ви просто вас типа получалося?
Мы знали, куда мы идем, зачем мы идем.
Ага. Втомилися?
Ой, 2 дня спали, без ног.
И то
Тут в Ізюмі?
Уже да. Ну, уже. Так,
Ну, как спокойно отбили. Вот.
сейчас хоть перекурим.
А що стріляє? Можете розказати? Я щось вже боюсь.
Уже не обращаю внимания на это.
Так а що це?
Може, розтяжки знімають.
Ага.
Може бути таке.
Замучилися?
Та ну звісно, важко. Але ніхто крім нас.
Знаю, що це десант на час.
Звісно.
А ви взагалі знали, що будете Ізюм брати? Чи вийшли вперед?
Ні, ми це знали.
І вірили, що візьмете?
А у нас вихід був?
Ми не візьмемо.
Поки віддихаємо. Чекаємо. Зараз резерви підтягуються. Зараз тут все у людей буде добре. Світ, інтернет, зв'язок. Ну, комунікація. Тобто все це наладиться, але не так швидко. Тому що ці звичайні тварі зруйнували все, що змогли.
А ви вперед десь йдете, так?
Не можу цього сказати. Ну, надіюсь, будемо в Криму віддихати скоро. Дай Бог.
А це ви в них набрали? Ну, типа, це трофейне?
Так, забрали.
А це теж трофейне?
Да.
Серйозно?
Серьезно.
Смотрите, говядина, высший сорт, паштет тоже.
Единственное, что забрали у них, это продовольствие, то есть. Ну и то, заехали сюда, местному населению сразу раздали, потому что люди тут зашугани. Я не знаю, что они с ними сделали, но реально люди встречали нас на коленях, буквально. То есть, я такого не видел еще. Сам воюю с 17 года, и такого я еще ни разу в жизни не видел. Реально люди просто встречали на коленях, то есть реально слезы было тяжело держать, буквально. То есть, сложно было. Не, просто це, з одної сторони, це мотивація, понимаете? Коли ти їдеш, дивишся на цього п'ятирічного там хлопчика, да, і коли він вибігає, тобто з двору там кричить, руками махає, біжить, обнімати, то, за це реально варто боротися. І... Просто у нас є, да, мотивація, а ми обороняємося. У нас є мотивація захищатися, то есть, какая у них мотивация, я с многими пленными говорил, и так четкого ответа я до сих пор не получил.
Багато
ни одного
Все
ответа.
говорят,
Да,
нас
да,
на
ни одного-
кредиты сюда отправили.
Да,
и вот
всех
чисто вот,
одна
да,
отмазка, нас отправили
говорит.
кредитные приставы, вот, типа, если мы не будем отдавать кредит, нас отправляют в армию. То есть, как я понимаю, как я их понял, точнее, то их загнали в кредиты страна, правильно? А потом, то есть, если они не могут отдавать эти кредиты, то вы должны отработать в стране. Да, но это же бред. Это не может быть так. Не может просто.
So they said that they've heard from Russians that one of the ways that they're being sent into Russia is because they can't pay their loans off. So they're being conscripted into the Russian army, being sent to Ukraine. The Ukrainian soldiers don't believe that line of story, but they're trying to find where the Russians' motivation is, and there doesn't exist. There is no Russian morale and motivation here. The Ukrainians, again, all they got to do is wake up. That's their motivation. Wake up and start the day. Also, thank you, Martin, for the $50 super chat. You sent it a little earlier. I didn't see it until now. Thank you so much for that.
Ми зайшли перші. Тобто, і перші, ви бачили в інтернеті, ми перші повісили прапор України. Тобто ми зайшли і Ізюм наш. Тобто, Ізюм наш. Ізюм наш. Ну, все. Тобто, ось це всі емоції. Радість. Величезна радість, тому що ми будемо гнати їх далі.
Ну, ви знаєте, що ви підете далі вперед зараз. Тобто ви тут не зупиняєтеся, лінія фронту сунеться.
Сунеться. І ми сунемося. Куди сунемося? Так що будемо Богу відомо і комбат, і комбрів. Все.
А це, от ви кажете, танчик кацапський, це ви віджали?
Так, да, це наш Карпатська Січ. Я стою біля вас, зараз може хтось під'їхати, якась інша бригада, наприклад, так? І вона скаже: ой, хлопці, коротше, у мене немає там акумулятора або БК, мені не вистачає там якогось снаряду. Можна? Ні. Тобто всі хочуть трофейну техніку, тому що це є трофей. Ти прийшов і забрав його для себе, для свого батальйону, там, для своєї частини чи там якогось окремого там корпусу. Тобто це є твоє. Там стоять, до речі, тепловізори французькі. Тобто якщо він веде навод, якщо він взяв ціль, він вже її не залишить. Тобто в нього пушка буде йти автоматично. І тобто, якщо він вас побачив, він вас не залишить. Якщо ви там, не знаю, в окоп сховаєтесь, тоді вже ви пропадете з його поля зору. Все. Ми на нулю. Ми перші. Вітання.
So he was in that viral photo that we saw when the Russians took Izium, standing on the, or excuse me, the Ukrainians took Izium back from the Russians, and the Ukrainians were standing on the Russian flag. He was in that photo.
Якби можна було знімати, коли після авіаударів, коли там люди, що там їх засипало, і там і дітські потім ладошки тягали собаки.
Скільки там дітей?
Smoking on orc losses.
Ми тут пройшли, отут ми лазили, там нас де кацапи, де питали, все це. Нас тут під ствол ставили, там, били і все остальне. Ну ми, розумієш, якщо мені хтось приїде і скаже, що я сепар, якби в мене є питання тут до певних...
Хто це скаже?
У нас була можливість виїхати, знаєте куди тільки? На Кацапщину. Ми залишилися тут, тому що це наша земля.
А як хата понравилась наша?
З хати виселяли. Її сказали, ми ж тебе зараз, ви знімаєте? Так, ласково, що ізнасилуємо, мужа прийдеш, потім забереш труп.
Утром каже,
Ночі
забереш і
водили,
похорониш.
на нож сажали.
Каже,
Поэтому...
виїжджайте до Росії. Ні, нікуди, і батька ж тут, і ми. Каже, ми вам зараз мішки на голову і вивеземо.
А коли прийшли ж ці ж ДНР, ЛНР, вони сказали, ми 8 років терпіли, а тепер терпіть ви. Що луганчані, що поступали, з нами хуже, ніж росіяни. Хоча, а росіяни нас просто ненавидять. Це факт. Я ж всім сказав.
They said the LNR treated them worse than the Russians did.
Нас тримають тут в якості живого щита. Все.
Thank you, Shockit, for $10 super chat.
Дороги назад немає. Прекрасно. Це прапор Ізюм. Перефразовуючи президента України, прапор України ось там на місці, прапор Ізюма ось тут на місці, 25-та десантно-штурмова бригада, яка звільняла Ізюм, на місці поки що, тому що вони хочуть рухатись вперед. І Ізюм зараз звільнений, що є досі приємним шоком для самих мешканців Ізюма. Вони потрохи виходять на вулицю, дивляться на це все і якби починають, як вони самі кажуть, вільно дихати тут нарешті, після півроку окупації. Ізюм насправді був плацдармом, точкою вихідною для російських військ, щоб наступати на Донбас, зокрема на Слов'янськ. Довго тут стримували під Ізюмом українські війська цю російську армію. Це було дуже і дуже непросто. І ось так безславно для російської армії і так швидко все закінчилося. І виглядає на те, що наступати далі буде українська армія, а не російська звідси.
It seems the Ukrainian army will continue to attack and not the Russian army. The Russians are in retreat over here. They're retreating eastward. Frank, there has been no updates on the Ukrainians that are building up in this. You're thinking of Vuhledar, right? There's been no updates on that as of today. We'll look for that, see if there's anything to update tomorrow.
Чесно, на центральній площі в мене сльози на глаза накатувались. Просто сльози на глаза накатувались. Як тут люди виживали, ми завтра сюди, з побратимами моїм, ми приїдемо сюди дітям роздавати конфети. Бо ми поки пройшли на 10 чоловік, 10 дітей вискочили, спросили, є конфетка, є конфетка. Оце должно так дитинство проходити? От ви мені скажіть. В мене нема слів, у нас нема времени в тому. У нас нема, ми не повинні давати можливості росіянам перегрупуватись. Ми повинні робити свою справу. Ми повинні кожного українця визволяти. Просто кожного українця визволяти. Коли нам відпочивати? Ми робимо свою справу. Я 2 місяці назад тому робив начальником відділу продажів, а зараз я зі зброєю в Ізюмі за 400 кілометрів від своєї хати. Коли нам відпочивати? Вибачте, я емоції. Гарного вам дня.
When should they shouldn't? He said, when should we rest? They're fighting for their homeland. There is no time off. They're not in Russia. They're not fighting over Russian land. These aren't soldiers that are in Russian territory. They're in their own home country. Right? Own home country here. If the Russians decide to nuke Ukraine, that's wild. Wouldn't they pull all their troops out first? Absolutely not. Russia would nuke their own troops. 100%. They don't give a shit about their people at all. The Kremlin doesn't. Oh no. They don't even give them an advance notice, honestly. That's my honest answer, no. And then they would lie to their family
Ну,
afterwards.
люди якось оце, як ви з'явилися, почали хоч виходити. Я вчора через центр йшла, дивлюсь, люди по площі гуляють. Це такого в нас не було півроку взагалі. Всі сиділи, отак затаївшися, переживали. Та ну ясно, боялись, переживали. І йдуть наші хлопці, такі красиві, високі.
Тобто декілька годин?
Такі, знаєте, свої. От просто свої. Зразу відчувається така аура їхня, наша.
А що, росіяни були не такі?
Просто росіяни були налаштовані на те, що треба шукати контакти з українцями. І вони завжди з нами намагалися говорити так, щоб ми відчули, що в них... Але це все було дуже штучне. Ми ж теж відчували. Спочатку нас розбомбили, а потім нам розказують, все буде хорошо, все у вас буде хорошо. І ти маєш іти кожної хвилини боятися, що може... Ти паспорт забув, чи спочатку ці ж білі стрічки на рукавах ми мали, там зима же ще була, ну, березень ще морози ж були, ви знаєте.
What does that sound like? They had to walk around with papers, they had to wear ribbons on their sleeves, you had to go being afraid every minute you might have forgotten your passport to show your papers? What does that sound like?
Що може ти паспорт забув, чи спочатку ці ж білі стрічки на рукавах ми мали, там зима же ще була, ну, березень ще морози ж були, ви знаєте. Якщо ти без тої білої стрічки, чи в тебе паспорт в кармані немає, уже ти не людина, уже ти ніхто. А ми до цього не звикли, розумієте? Ми, українці, вільні люди. Ми звикли до свободи. Я йду куди хочу, я говорю те, що хочу, ніхто мені цього не забороняє робити. І для нас це було дуже незвично. І страшно, і незрозуміло, як це ми можемо жити, всього боятися.
That's what they are. Live in fear of everything. That's a good way to... She's describing what the Russian media, what the energy from the ethnic Russians in the East, that Putin and the Kremlin are propagandizing, and this type of Karen-style Russians, that we have the same type of archetypal people here in the United States. They're not Russians, but they're the same. They're fucking American Russians, basically. And they have the same ideological beliefs and everything. And they live in fear of everything. And they had no freedom. No freedom under Russian control whatsoever. Had to have passports, had to wear a sleeve signaling who you were. Couldn't leave without your passport. You could get killed if you didn't have it. All freedom taken away.
А ви були вчителькою чого?
Української мови літератури. Це видно. Тут ми вже навчили, де стріляє гаубиця, де стріляє гради, де ще що. Всю ніч це було вдень і вночі. А вранці ми вийшли тихо і нічого не зрозуміло, що відбулося. І ми нікого не бачимо, ні одної машини. То вони весь час сюди-туди. Ми ж тут на такому місці живемо. Вони сюди-туди моталися. А тут така тиша. І кажуть, наші в місті.
А потім з'явилися то там.
Да, з'явились наші.
Українців, то там.
І ми сидимо, плачемо, так, то це наші. Такого наче не думала, не доживемо ми до цього, не доживемо. А виявляється, дожили. І тому нам, звичайно, нам дісталось дуже Ізюму. Ми тут на такому місці, як кажуть, називають нас сірою зоною, що ми між вогнями завжди будемо жити.
Wow, what a report. Those are the best types of reports I think that exist. That just shows what's going on. She narrated some of it, but a lot of just visuals of what's going on and interviews, talking to people in Izium. So again, this was the civilians and some of the soldiers interviewing from Hromdatsky YouTube channel here about what's going on in the liberated city of Izium. Great report there. Here's Ukrainian President Zelenskyy visits reclaimed territory from Russia. So if you missed this from yesterday, this was Zelenskyy visiting that exact same city. This is a report from PBS on the matter.
Clear in the northeast of Ukraine. And a warning, some images and accounts in this story are graphic.
In liberated Izium, scarred and smashed by Russian occupation, the Ukrainian military now guarantees security. And Ukraine's president vows to restore the rule of law that Russia stole. Speaking to the soldiers who liberated Izium this past weekend, Volodymyr Zelenskyy said Ukraine would re-seize all its territory.
It might be possible to occupy the territories of our country, but it's certainly impossible to occupy our people.
Ukraine's anthem promises to lay down soul and body for our freedom. Today, this city, once crucial to Russia's offensive, once again flies the blue and gold. Zelenskyy then traveled up the road to another city liberated last week, Balaklia. He awarded soldiers for their service and success.
The people of Ukraine will never forget. But you, please, never forgive any of those traitors and terrorists.
We caught up with him as he left.
Why was it important for you to come here today?
It's very important to come. For example, it's very important that our soldiers came back and deoccupied our territories and our people. It means that the life came back. Ukraine is here. That's very important. For me, also important because they do their important, strong, and very dangerous work. And if our soldiers are here, so it means I have to support people and soldiers.
In the past week, Ukraine has recaptured dozens of towns and more territory than Russia seized in the past 5 months. One of the architects of that success is General Alexander Syrsky.
Why do you think you've had the success you've had in Kharkiv?
Our operation was successful due to the mobility of our units, together with artillery fire and aviation support.
He said he was not worried about his troops becoming overstretched, and he vowed to expand operations into neighboring Donetsk and Luhansk, currently controlled by Russia.
We, of course, are planning to continue our offensive. We have success. Our units are moving forward. The morale of the enemy is low.
Especially before winter time. This is crucial time to do this. But again, it's going to be like accordion style because they have to move their artillery pieces to the front. Every time there's a new front line, you got to move all your shit forward and regroup, resupply, fuel, food, troop numbers, ammunition. Like that all has to be replenished as the front lines move and as they continue to take ground.
But the wounds of occupation are deep. Residents jostle over handouts of badly needed food, and they are traumatized by Russian war crimes. Kirilo Timoshenko is one of Zelenskyy's deputy chiefs of staff.
What kind of evidence are you finding now that you're able to get into some of these territories that was occupied by Russia?
We are documenting all of the war crimes that we find because they're indeed horrific. There are a lot of cases of such crimes that we see in the liberated areas just in the past few days, where locals start telling us where the bodies are hidden.
Wow.
And unfortunately in this town, that's just down the road, a district police headquarters that became the occupiers' facility for detention.
This is where the Russian soldiers slept.
Yes.
A Ukrainian intelligence officer begins a tour into the heart of darkness, the basement that became a Russian dormitory with Russian cup of noodles and expired canned food. Investigators comb through what the Russians hastily left behind. They brush for fingerprints, hoping to identify soldiers for future criminal trials.
Good.
Upstairs, a crime scene investigator who asked to be kept anonymous shows me the holding cells. Each one held 6 to 13 Ukrainian prisoners.
Wow.
They marked each day into the wall and scratched their salvation. This is the Lord's Prayer, asking, "Deliver us from evil." In the next cell, days turned into months.
So the prisoners kept a calendar. They marked how many days they'd been in captivity.
Every person staying here was marking their days in, dates when they were brought in, as well as dates when they were transferred or taken for interrogation.
Those rooms came to symbolize Russian cruelty, where the devices of dehumanization still litter the floor.
Ukrainian police say that this room was used as interrogation and basically became a torture chamber. They point out a couple things here. This string that was used for choking anybody they were talking to, this is the end of a baton that actually broke on one of the people they were interrogating. And then down here, Russian forces used electricity against Ukrainians they were questioning. And
we heard that from the report from one of the civilians yesterday. He said he had to hold two wires and touch them together and electrocute them. So
police say they're going to send all this evidence to the prosecutor general with the hope of holding Russia accountable. Who were they interrogating in this room?
They would target government officials, municipal officials, emergency workers, doctors, as well as law enforcement.
And local journalists. We found 69-year-old Anatoly Harahati outside, filming the source of his horror.
Can you tell me what your experience was during Russian occupation?
On May 28th, they came to my home. I'm sorry. They took all of my equipment. And I spent here 100 days. 100 days.
Harahati usually films happier scenes for a historical archive, but when he filmed the Russian occupiers, they detained him.
They wanted me to work for them. They wanted me to post their propaganda on my YouTube channel, to betray Ukraine and praise Putin, praise this, quote, liberation army, and so on. I refused. As a result, it's very difficult. They even wanted to execute me.
For others, Russia followed through on that threat. Here lies Maxim Shalikhan. Buried among those who died peacefully, Shalikhan was murdered in June by Russian interrogators. His brother was allowed to see his body in detention. Svetlana is Maxim's mother.
Zelenskyy is not a mafia boss. Fuck is wrong with you? You get to go in timeout.
He was taken into the cell. He was there for a split second, and he said the body was still warm.
Svetlana is not here to mourn. She is here to watch the unwatchable, her son's body being exhumed. Investigators need to document how Russia tortured him in order to one day find justice. But until that day, in this war, Russia has stolen the dignity from even the dead. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schifrin in Balaklia, Ukraine.
Dug up their graves to loot the graves. That's why we call them orcs. Just getting absolutely just terrible and on the war crimes being committed by the Russian soldiers or the Russian volunteer garbage. Here's Ukrainian soldiers free the city of Izium. Some more on that. Fresh report from today. It's a video, rather.
Далеко картоплю погнали, ні? Їдемо доганяти. Хто більше всього популярний? Вот он самий герой! Паша, поїхав? Тут не важко. Вези. Все, туди більше вона впаде. Действительно ад.
Is that the World Kitchen? Look what Izium looks like. Izium was under Russian control for 6 straight months. 6 straight months from Russian occupation. Ukraine war, mass burial site containing 440 graves in Izium. So this is all coming from the most recently liberated city, or one of the biggest liberated cities of Izium. And it's like we've already lived this type of movie, right? We saw what the Russians did up in the Kyiv oblast in Bucha and Irpin. It's like we're reliving that. It's 6 months later. The Russians have lost territory. They're only taking L's, but as they as they get destroyed in their area that they're occupying, they leave behind a crime scene. They leave behind mass graves, atrocities, war crimes, and this is just like a part of the cycle now at this point. Russians get their ass kicked, then we see the war crimes that are being committed in the area.
These policemen make no attempt to hide their contempt for Russia. At the entrance to Izium, they celebrate the city's return to Ukrainian control. Even the Interior Minister shows up.
Yes. Excuse me, Minister, Deborah from Sky News. We met in Bucha. Do you mind, how are you feeling? You're standing here, Izium, the entrance to Izium, you've just been visiting. How are you feeling?
You know, it's different feeling. From one side, I'm happy just now, but from another side, I am upset because many our Ukrainian citizens, I mean civilians, we found here and they dead by Russians, and it's a problem for us also.
It's not hard to see why. That's the remnants of a cluster bomb in the city centre. The scale of the suffering here is only starting to emerge as police return to the streets now Russia's occupation has ended.
Я можу сказати, що є одне з найбільших захоронень – це захоронення в великому місті, деокупованому, яке налічує понад...
So this mass grave site's even bigger than Bucha.
440 місць захоронень, 440 тіл було захоронено в одному місті.
And are you able to say how they died yet, or do you just not know?
Нам відомо, що деякі були вбиті, деякі загинули в результаті артилерійських обстрілів, так названі мінно-вибухові травми, деякі загинули в результаті авіабомб.
You're a police chief, yes, you're an investigator, but you are also a human. As a human, how did you feel?
Для мене це особливо шок, це жах, і це є злочином проти людства.
We saw the top investigator at work last weekend. His team recovered the remains of 2 men from a garden in this tiny village. They'd been shot dead. More than 20 bodies have already been retrieved across newly liberated parts of Kharkiv region. It's a hugely difficult task, but police are determined to secure justice and to help their people move on. Deborah Haynes, Sky News, Kharkiv.
So in the mass grave site of 440 graves found near Izium. Credit to Sky News for that reporting. John Sweeney, Orange Hats in the chat. War Diary, day 204. Putin and Xi are not happy bunnies. Not happy bunnies. Orange Hats in the chat.
War Diary, day 204. Vladimir Putin's war. The master of the Kremlin, or is it the prisoner of the Kremlin, has gone off to former Soviet Central Asia to talk Turkey with China's strongman, President Xi. And be it noted that Putin has said to the Chinese that he's going to address their concerns about the crisis in Ukraine. Address their concerns, folks. Decoded, this means that China is hopping mad with Putin. Fine, you know, knock over a democracy in a couple of days, great, terrific, we're up for that. But we're not up for a long war because China needs European and American and British customers. It really, really does. The Chinese economy is in trouble because there's been a great drought there. One of the tributaries of the Yangtze was bone dry this summer. And the strategic interests between the Russian tyranny and the Chinese tyranny are quite different. Putin's narrative to the Russians is, forget about the West, you don't want to be like the West, we're all transgender here. He deliberately sows division because that makes him feel stronger in power about it back in Moscow. The Chinese strategy is quite different. They don't like the West, they don't like democracy, they don't like us raising proper concerns about what's happening to the Tibetans or the Uyghurs or the people of Hong Kong, or indeed the bigger question of Chinese democracy. full stop. However, they need our customs to keep their economy going, and it's in trouble because of the big Chinese drought this summer. So Putin didn't have a great time in his talks with Xi, and that is the reason. Something else very significant is happening. The Chinese are not rearming, resupplying Russian killing machine because they're afraid of Western sanctions. Remember, we are stronger than we think we are. Democracy is a far, far, far better system. And Vladimir Putin is a fragile monster and he's in trouble. Do fuck off, Vladimir Putin. Love from London.
Do fuck off. He's fragile. Super fragile. Lots of people like Vladimir Putin and that type of ideology are fragile. Here's Ukrainian special forces dominating a Russian unit trapped inside building in Dobrova in Donetsk region. So this is in the city of Dobrova. Some combat footage of Ukrainian special forces. Oh, Andy Shea with 5 Mercado Media memberships. Oh, Mod Taylor gets a membership. Mod Ivy gets a membership. Alucius gets one. Aaron gets one. Cynthia gets one. Congratulations to the 5 that received gifted memberships from Andy Shea. There goes a one Russian soldier attempted to flee. I don't think that worked for him. So Ukrainian special forces advancing in the, where is Dobrova exactly on our map? Let's look this up real fast. Let's look up where Dobrova is. It's going to be over here. Along the N15 highway. Over in Donetsk. See if we can line that up over here. Dobrova. Oof. Here's the N15. Here it is. just south of the T0427 highway along the N15, the city of Dobrova. Let's continue. Again, credit to War Leaks for that. Some combat footage there. You got to scroll down here. If y'all could, for me, like the video on YouTube, hit that like button, spam those reactions on Facebook. If y'all could, it does help significantly. Something free to do to help the support Mercado Media and help me continue going forward. So here we got reportedly a Russian T-90 Alpha tank being taken out of storage. Looks like they didn't have a Stora 1. Maybe a T-90 or a T-90S.
Вот и наши красавчики! Вот и наши красавчики!
Taken out of storage. Some Russian T-90 tanks coming out. Here you got a destroyed Russian RKHBZ BMOT heavy APC. Heavy APC destroyed. That's a common image. Video of Ukrainian YPR 765 APC struck by a mine in the Kherson Oblast. So Ukrainian APC struck by a mine. A Ukrainian vehicle likely involved in these counteroffensives in the south or incremental gains in the south. Interesting details from this video from Ukraine's Kraken unit in Balakilia. It shows the 2S3 Akatsia howitzer, a Strela 10, and what looks like a bridge layer. MTLB, one with a ZU-23-2, a BRD M2, a captured Tiger M, pickup trucks, and possible HIMARS launchers. This is from the Kraken unit. It's one of Ukraine's special forces units. This is in the Kharkiv Oblast.
Может, мост подорвет.
There's the civilians. That's what does that say? And is that Balakilia? Coming soon? Or is that or their video? What does that say there at the end? Coming soon. Anybody comment in the chat? What's this word say? It does say Balakilia. Okay, I was right. Not too many updates media-wise from Rob Lee either. Captured Russian 2S3-23 Nona SVK 120mm mortar in Ukrainian service. So you got a captured Russian Nona SVK 120mm mortar system. Now Ukraine holds it. We're going to go to the Ukraine war video report, then we'll go to the Mercado Media Discord server and see any videos that we might have missed from the day. Here's Ukrainian warriors are taking care of animals, and animals love good and kind-hearted human beings. More and more animal videos.
Это война.
Bunnies in the Ukrainian trench.
Просто не до шуток. Кормим Кракена.
Oh, wow.
Что, мимо опять? Да. Да, ёпа мать. Иди отсюда. Саня, парень сейчас откусит, Саня. Иди отсюда.
Коли Максим спить, а горобчик дивиться на горобців.
Алло, це захват, ти на кого работаєш? Кажи, на кого работаєш?
Ни на кого, я ФОП другой группы, сам на себе.
Здесь ебашат всеми калибрами.
Ебашит всеми, да, прям?
Спасаем! Разговаривай с ним, спроси, что у него.
And they got the good
Искусственное
boy.
дыхание, быстро! Массаж сердца! Мы его теряем!
That dog's trying to sleep.
Быстрее работай! Пришел в норму, все. Молодец, все. Эвакуируем, уносим 300-го, уносим. Спасаем 300-го, спасаем, уносим. Все, будет жить, будет.
Знаешь, это не дело для пушистых
Dog's mad as hell.
солдатиков. Тут только суровые мужчины.
Oh, we got chance. We got memberships going on here. We got Mustang 6 upgraded to level 3. Shout out to Mustang 6. Chance has been a member for 7 months. Glad to be a member. Love watching your channel. And then Revenge gifted 1 membership. And it looks like Jan Marie received the gifted membership. Thank you to Revenge and Andy Shea. I don't have any sponsors yet. So everybody that becomes a member or a supporter on the Facebook page, y'all are my sponsors. Thank you guys so much for supporting. Be above and beyond.
Которые не знают слов любви, холодны, как рассвет.
The puppies, bunnies, and kitties of war. War dog. It's a diamond dog right there. Field bunnies.
Что вы можете сказать на это? А?
Они молча в ахуе.
Все, спи.
Good videos right there. Again, Ukrainian warriors taking care of some animals in the front lines. So you got POV videos all over this page. Armed Forces of Ukraine warehouse with used charges for American M777 howitzers. So some used canisters. Oh wow. Those to show you how much artillery is being used in these howitzers. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Слава Україні.
Oh, looks like Revenge gifted 5 more. Bull Dodge, Big Booms. Congratulations. Janice Kabaya, Kenesha Fowler, and Wombat Dundee. Got some memberships in the chat. Everyone's getting memberships, looks like. The photos of soldiers who refuse to fight in Ukraine are displayed above urinals in Russia. Being shamed. Being shamed there. If you refuse to fight in Ukraine, you get put above a urinal. Messy, getting messy in Armenia. A Russian who apparently thought he was superior and trashed the authorities is put back in his place.
Сыкуха ты, что ты ссышь, я тебя бить не буду. Что ты кричишь на власть? Вот эта власть, вы будете подчиняться, гандоны российские. Понятно? Вы пойдете, русские пидорасы.
Alright, using some language there I can't put on the stream. Using Molotov cocktails, we are on the we and the Russians are one nation. Using Molotov cocktails and the we and the Russians are one nation sign. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
Хорошо.
Missed that first one though. The first one kind of just bounced right off.
Хорошо.
Oh yeah. Fuck that. Oh yeah, fuck that. We and Russians are one nation. Screw that. Ukrainian APC crews were trained in Finland to operate the Finnish XA-185 APCs that Finland quickly donated to Ukraine. This is the first time Finland has revealed to train Ukrainians directly in Finland. Hey, Martin upgraded. Thank you so much, Martin, for upgrading your membership. Armed Forces training, ATM shooting, blows shrapnel back, destroying car window. So Armed Forces of Ukraine training videos. Oops.
Ебать, хвостовик!
They're laughing. That is not the reaction that would happen at U.S. military range. Holy shit. Went back through the window. Back, went right back through the car window. Oops. That's an oopsie right there. That would not have ended well. HIMARS targeting the enemy in the Ukrainian night sky. HIMARS in the chat. HIMARS in the chat. One more time. Lighten up the night sky. Sending it to the Russian positions. The Ukrainian counteroffensives is not safe for work. Impressive Javelin long-distance shot by paratrooper of the Ukrainian 81st Air Mobile Brigade on a Russian tank, causing an instant cook-off on impact. Caused a cook-off. So Javelin video from the Armed Forces of Ukraine on a Russian tank, causing it to cook off. More Russian POW videos. You can find all those on the War Report Reddit. So here's the Special Forces of the Ukrainian National Guard clearing a building occupied by Russian troops in Donetsk Oblast. This is from the... Okay, this is a lot of UAV and ground footage. So there's a little bit more UAV footage with this one. But we saw some of the on-the-ground video from this, but here is, this encompasses the UAV footage too. Russians running into the house. You get the Ukrainians advancing onto that house. Or destroying it completely too. Steve Cancer 01, welcome to the YouTube channel. Thank you. It's raining members tonight. Y'all are amazing. That really does help me keep going, y'all. Super significant. I'm hoping we get a sponsor soon so I don't have to keep asking. And then it's for real, like, if you want to. Artists, it's for the YouTube chat. I'm hoping Facebook unlocks emojis someday. And I can put custom emojis on Facebook too. Mix of close quarters combat. That house that the Russians went into got completely destroyed. There's the one Russian soldier that runs off. All right, so that's the Ukrainian Special Forces clearing Russians out of a building in Donetsk Oblast. Another kill for Ukraine's BTR-4, destroying a Russian BTR. So you got a Ukrainian BTR versus a Russian BTR. Ukraine wins. Damn.
Да ебало завали, петух, сука, я тебя сейчас высажу, нахуй. Слышишь, блядь? Разошлись, нахуй.
Oh, Mon Taylor gave out 5 more memberships. Vanessa, Sweet Cheeks, Lisa, T. Gus. Raining memberships on YouTube right now.
Открой воды, нахуй. Быстрее.
Raining memberships, gifted memberships. YouTube, big YouTube trying to keep up with Twitch. Look at that. YouTube said we need to keep up with Twitch. The numbers are how long you've been a member. It's like your membership rank, I guess, if you will. If you're a number 1, you're brand new. If you have a 5, you've been a member for 2 years. Or a year, I think. Customs building in Nekovedivka in the Belgorod region. Russia is reported to be burning. So there's more video, So let's go to the map. This is in a Russian city called Belgorod. And there's been more strikes in Belgorod, whether it's from Russia's own military doing some false flagging, trying to be like, hey, look, Ukraine's attacking us too type shit. Or it's actually Ukraine striking Belgorod. Unclear. Well, I could do a poll and see what y'all think, but this is the Russian city. This is in Russia, not in Ukraine. I know we talk about Russian-controlled cities in Ukraine. This city is in Russia, okay? And there's just more and more videos of this city and things within it burning. And blowing up.
Шпарят, суки. По нам шпарят. Это танк хуярит. И танк где-то недалеко стоит.
One more time on that.
Шпарят, суки. По нам шпарят. Это танк хуярит.
Oh, here come 5 more from me. Gotta match the other ones that have been gifting out. 5 more gifted memberships. Drones operated by the Ukrainian border guards dropped modified grenades on Russian military hardware. Appreciate that, Chris. All right, so some Ukrainians dropping loitering munitions on Russian positions near the border. Oh dear, here we go. Russia State TV's Vladimir Solovyov says his country should form an international coalition for its war in Ukraine, including Venezuela, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and Nicaragua. So here's your daily dose of Russian media cope.
Также, я считаю, необходимо создавать международную коалицию. Я не понимаю, почему те американцы отправляются хоть против Гренады воевать, они все время сколачивают международную коалицию. Почему мы отказываем себе в этом удовольствии? Есть прекрасно обученные нами отряды в Сирии. Есть люди, которые болеют за нас в Африке. Есть Венесуэла, есть Никарагуа, есть Куба, есть Иран и Северная Корея. Если добровольцы со всего мира едут и воюют в корпусах ДНР, почему не дать им возможность также организоваться, создать...
You guys hear that swallow? What was that? It just sounds like you might as well have crickets playing right now. That was an intense swallow of water. He looked over at him. That right there, what the hell?
Мира едут и воюют в корпусах ДНР. Почему не дать им возможность также организоваться, создать международный корпус? Еще со времен войны с фашизмом в Испании, когда в первый раз интербригады столкнулись с нацистами Германии, воевавшими на стороне Франка, эта практика была. Я не понимаю, почему мы должны от этого отказываться. Почему должны мешать людям, которые хотят взять в руки оружие и идти? Почему нашим братьям-сербам? Некоторые из них и так сейчас воюют в корпусе ДНР. Но это мое дилетантское мнение. Это мое дилетантское мнение.
And doesn't look like, not even on your little panel there, nobody agrees with you. So, things aren't going well. The cope in Russia is not going well, even on their media. They're reeling. If there's, it's like a way to put it, right? Like reeling, coping, doing whatever they can. Let's go to the Discord. Shout out to the Mercado Media Discord server. Join that if you have not done so. Link is in the description. We have an amazing Discord server. I'm going to open it up right now. You have like nearly 4,000 in it. So we got a war discussion channel here. War clips, which is what I'm going to open right now and pull up all of the newest clips that all of our orc hunters have been sharing into our Discord server. Also, make sure y'all join the Telegram channel because I send the videos to the Telegram channel so y'all get updated. So if, say, YouTube doesn't notify you or Facebook doesn't notify you, you get a guaranteed notification in Discord and Telegram. There's actually there's a notifications channel here for both Mercado Media streams and Snack Squad. Shout out to our Snack Squad community that tune into my gaming streams. But you get all of it on Discord. You get notifications for the stream, for gaming streams, for Mercado Media, all of it. Please join our Discord server. It's amazing. So starting here, so we're collecting battlefield evidence from NATO. What's this? Toucan Sam. Counterterrorism training on battlefield evidence collection, NATO. Is this a job ad?
Cell phones, whether that be documents, computers, DNA, fingerprints, all this is battlefield evidence.
This gives you an idea of how Ukraine's taken evidence in for DNA collection in these war crimes. This is a NATO video, but Ukraine's following the model.
10 seconds can be the difference between finding a thumb drive hidden somewhere or not finding that thumb drive. And that thumb drive might be where the bombs are located that are going to kill one of your comrades.
Wow, okay, it looks like a commercial, but that gives you an idea of where they get the training to locate, to take in battlefield evidence, to locate bombs, etc. What else we got here? Video clips, let's go to it. Whole bunch from Jan Marie. We saw that video a little earlier. We saw a lot of these now. Ukraine army is just like Nintendo. Super Mario continues to collect trophies. This is from the defense of Ukraine. They're just wilding. today. And Kevin got a hold of the Russian equipment and went into the Russian positions here. So Defensive Ukraine tweeting that out, putting that video together. What else we got here? We got Civdiv. We saw that yesterday. So saw a lot of these videos. Shout out to the Orc Hunters sharing. There's also an not safe for work section. So if you want to see some of those other combat videos and whatnot that I can't really show on to the public like this on this platform, that's Discord and Telegram is great to see that if you want that information or you want to be directed in those directions. But all right, y'all, hey, the rest of the night I'm going to be live over on Snack Squad TV's YouTube channel. Snack Squad TV. If you're on Facebook right now, all y'all need to come over to YouTube and hang out and play some video games with us. I'm going to be live because guess what? I'm going to be live tomorrow at noon because Modern Warfare 2 comes out. Modern Warfare 2, I'm revisiting my childhood. I'm about to go buy some Mountain Dew. I'm going to have some fun tomorrow during the daytime. I'm going to be live tonight with Last of Us Part 2, but Modern Warfare 2 comes out tomorrow, Call of Duty, in the beta for PlayStation. So I'm going to be streaming it to my gaming channel. So for sure, go over and subscribe to Snack Squad TV. I'll be live during the daytime tomorrow streaming Call of Duty. But also, if you enjoy video games and you enjoy gaming style live streams and content, go support us on Snack Squad TV. I'll be live over there in like 15 minutes from now, like 10-15 minutes after the stream ends. Thank you all so much for supporting Mercado Media here for Ukraine war streams and also just current events. This is our news channel, so I'm an independent content creator, still independent news journalist, if you will, and documenting current events. I don't have a sponsor or anything like that. So shout out to everybody that's a member of the YouTube channel. Shout out to everybody that's a supporter of the Facebook page. Thank you to everybody that sends super chats and super stickers and stars supporting me monetarily so I can continue the work that this takes to put into these streams, as well as get any new equipment that I might need. Midterm elections coming up. We'll be out there interviewing some voters, seeing what the hell they're voting for and what's going on. I got microphones and all types of stuff that's going to help me with my reporting coming up with the political season returning in the United States. So hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Like the video on Facebook. Spam those reactions on Facebook. See you guys on the next one. Take care. Have a good night.